Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. In our read through today, we're going to talk about H.P. Lovecraft and his mythos because it is obviously central to all of the adversaries you're going to be playing in this game. So, again, gird yourself, grab your loins, prepare to be scared.
We welcome all people, regardless of background, belief, or identity, to play tabletop role-playing games. Let's engage our imaginations, pull a veil over reality, and immerse ourselves in fantastic worlds. Don't be a disruption at the table, and always remember, it's just a game. The charity we support is the Wounded Warrior Project, a national, nonpartisan organization whose mission is to honor and empower wounded warriors. Please refer to the description below for the link to where you can make your, hopefully, tax-deductible donation. Join us Thursday and Saturday evenings on twitch.tv/Legion of Myth to watch Heathen Dog and his team of dirty casuals play multiplayer games for your mockery and enjoyment. Here on our YouTube channel, you can watch these game-related segments live every Sunday at 1 p.m. Central Time, or check out the Friday night stream where our panel of guests opine, comment, and editorialize on the TTRPG hobby as a whole. Please leave us a comment with your thoughts and experiences. If you enjoy our gaming content, please be sure to subscribe to Legion of Myth. Hey, there's no more subscribe!
Yeah, that's true. No more of that. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Cthulhu Mythos in particular because it is relevant to this game in particular.
The entirety of the game, right?
The entirety of the game is about this, so let's go ahead and do that. So we're got a little paragraph on H.P. Lovecraft here. Oops. No, I said do that. There you go. And we scroll this way.
This is why I do it in the browser and not in a... Oh, you're doing the browser too, aren't you?
Yeah. In a 46-year lifetime, H.P. Lovecraft, or HPL, I'm not doing that, wrote or collaborated on more than 65 stories, penned dozens of articles and essays, hundreds of poems, and wrote perhaps as many 100,000 letters. Despite never finding critical and commercial success in his lifetime, Lovecraft's legacy and contribution to modern horror storytelling cannot be overstated. His works now reach millions around the world, and his creations, particularly Cthulhu and the Necronomicon, have become well-known horror icons for a legion of devoted fans. Today, Lovecraft is recognized as making a significant contribution to American literature and as being one of the foremost horror writers of the 20th century. His life and the creation of the mythos. Although chronic nervous disorders prevented Lovecraft from regular attendance at school, he was a precocious child and an avid reader. As his father was institutionalized when Lovecraft, okay, now you know where it all comes from, right? I mean, I'm not even done with this first damn paragraph. I'm like, his life was a mythos game. All right. This is not a good start. No. Wow. When he was 3, he and his mother moved to the house owned by his maternal grandfather. In it was a library of Grandfather Whipple that Lovecraft first discovered the Arabian Nights, the myths of Greek and Rome, and Edgar Allan Poe. He wrote his first story, The Little Glass Bottle, at the age of 6, about the time he had his first dreams about the terrible faceless night gaunts. Throughout his life, he had vivid dreams. Oh my God. I feel bad for this guy. It was also through this library that Lovecraft developed a taste for Gregorian thought. What?
Georgian thought.
Thank you. Wow. And literature that would remain with him throughout his life. Lovecraft, who would later describe himself as a mechanist materialist, was also attracted to the sciences. In 1899, he began publishing a small journal called the Scientific Gazette, followed shortly thereafter by the Rhode Island Journal of Astronomy. These small hectograph publications were sold door to door by a bicycle-mounted H.P. Lovecraft. At age 13, Lovecraft's beloved grandfather died. His father had already passed away, succumbing to his illness in 1898.
Succumbing to the way that, what were they called? Mental asylums were back in the late 1800s. That's what it really was.
Still confined to Butler Hospital. Yeah. Hospitals back then were not only notoriously bullyish, but they also didn't care about the health of their inmates. So he died of whatever thing was going around at the time. A series of business failures had depleted the Whipple family fortune, forcing Lovecraft's mother and aunts to sell the family home and move to a smaller quarters. This was a great blow to Lovecraft. It would be a great blow to anyone, especially someone as mentally unstable as him. Another attack of nerves led to his withdrawal from high school in 1905 and again in 1908. Lovecraft, 2.5 years short of graduation, never returned. Lovecraft never held a job, supporting himself on the dwindling family fortune and by what little he could earn as a ghostwriter and revisionist. Always the aristocrat, he was throughout his life to remain torn between the professional writer's desire for success and money and the detached amateur. Amateur
now he knows my pain.
Yeah, I know your pain now. Oh my God, what the hell happened? I just want to go to the other side of here, but it won't let me go to the other side of here. There we go. Gentleman's desire to reach for aesthetic goals unfettered by commercial demands. That's pretty much every real artist when they're first starting out. They know they have to eat, but they still will not compromise their ideals. 99% of those people die in a gutter, but he got lucky. He didn't. Well, okay, let's not say lucky, but here we go. Despite this, his first attempts to sell his fiction met with unqualified success, with the editor of Weird Tales, Edwin Baird, accepting the first 5 stories sent to him by Lovecraft. His stories appeared in 9 of 11 issues published between late 1923 and early 1925. When the editorship of Weird Tales passed to the hands of Farnsworth Wright, Lovecraft's fortunes changed. Wright, an able editor, possessed a blind spot regarding Lovecraft's work and how he often met with rejection than success. Stories now considered classics, such as The Call of Cthulhu, were only published after meeting repeated rejections from Weird Tales. His half-hearted attempts to provide what Wright demanded of commercial fiction were only partially successful. Wright rejected both At the Mountains of Madness and The Shadow Out of Time, now famous stories that were eventually printed by Astounding Tales. The superb The Case of Charles Dexter Ward, I read that one, that was really good, didn't see publication until years after Lovecraft's death. Crushed by the repeated rejections, Lovecraft began refusing to submit his stories. Screw you guys, I'm taking the ball, I'm going home. And Dreams in the Witch House, also an amazing story, only saw print because a friend, August Derleth, secretly submitted it to Wright, urging him to accept it. Ironically, it was during this time that H.P. Lovecraft was doing the bulk of his professionally published revision work, much of it no less than actual ghostwriting. Lovecraft might provide a nearly complete text of a story based on a few root ideas supplied by the author. Stories such as Zela Bishop's The Curse of Yig and Hazel Heald's The Hole in the Museum were in fact 90% or more the product of H.P. Lovecraft. While these stories were quickly accepted by Wright, Lovecraft's work under his own name continued to be rejected. Okay.
Wow.
Well, we know Wright is a douchebag. Now we know that for a fact. Because if 90 or more percent of this things that did not have his name were accepted,
and that he was writing,
percent of everything that had his name on it was rejected, Wright's the dick. Now we know. Now we know. And like our logo says, knowing is half the battle. All right. Although he attracted a small core of avid fans, many of them writers themselves, he never achieved more than semi-regular publication in the pulp magazines of the day. Thank you. Never as popular as writers like Seabury Quinn, Lovecraft earned most of his meager income revising and rewriting the works of others, even ghostwriting Under the Pyramids in 1924 for escape artist Harry Houdini. It was through publication in amateur magazines and later in Weird Tales that Lovecraft was come into the contact with other authors of the macabre tale. Lovecraft was a prodigious letter writer. He regularly corresponded with other fiction writers, including Robert E. Howard, creator of Conan the Barbarian, Clark Ashton Smith, creator of Avergine and Zothique, and Robert Bloch, later to write Psycho. H.P. Lovecraft's fictional works and histories were often discussed, as were the worlds created by Smith and other writers. It was not long before Smith and Lovecraft carried this sharing of ideas into their fiction, referring to each other's creations in their stories. It was Smith who gave birth to such deities as Sathuga, I'm never going to pronounce these right. So get over it.
God 1, God, or DD1,
Yeah,
DD2,
there you
DD3.
Atlok Naka and Abnoth.
Just
or
saying the
Abhoth.
name sounds demonic. Can we not do
I know,
that?
right?
I feel like something's...
Exactly. I'm never going to get these right. Don't bother commenting. It's not going to happen. And who created the magical tome, the Book of Ebon? It was Smith's magical prehistoric Hyperborea that Lovecraft frequently referred to in his tales. This idea was soon picked up by other authors. Robert E. Howard created the dreaded... Nope.
This looks German.
It's German. Not doing it. Not doing that.
Put in Google Translate, see what comes up.
Yeah, I will Google Translate this. And the mad poet Justin Joffrey, author of The Terrible People of the Monolith. These were also incorporated into Lovecraft stories, along with references to Howard's prehistoric chimera. Whatever. The young Robert Bloch provided the blasphemous books De Vermis Mysterious, that's not right either, and the Cultes de Ghouls, as well as the interstellar and invisible star vampire that devoured a thinly disguised H.P. Lovecraft in Bloch's Shambler from the Stars. Bloch's creations were quickly absorbed by Lovecraft, who also revenged his murder by dispatching protagonist Robert Blake in The Haunter of the Dark in 1936. Apparently, they had a literary war to kill each other. That's great. Longtime friend Frank Belknap Long brought to the collection both the Hounds of Tindalos and Chognar Fawn, who appeared in The Horror in the Hills, a story by Long based on one of Lovecraft's many vivid dreams. August Derleth added the most to the now growing collection of great old ones and alien races. Continuing to write new Cthulhu Mythos stories long after Lovecraft's death in 1937, he created, among others, Cthulhu, the I don't know, Cho people, Ithaca, and the Sand Dwellers. Based on a number of his tales in Lovecraft's fictional towns, introduced such characters as Derleth's interpretations, his desire to create a pantheon of good gods based on Lovecraft's Nodens, and his attempt to define Cthulhu and Nyarlathotep as elementals. None will deny this man's tireless efforts in keeping the works of Lovecraft in print and available to the public in the decades following H.P. Lovecraft's death by founding Arkham House Publishing. One of Derleth's favorite additions to the mythos was Hastur, a great being supposedly trapped between the Lake of Hali near the city of Carcosa on a planet circling the star. Yeah, dude, it's going to get like this. You're going to have to understand this is how this works.
The star Aldebaran.
That's most likely it.
No, I saw it.
Okay.
I cheated. Good luck sliding over.
Yeah, that's fuck.
Hey, you say fudge.
Yeah, I say what I want. Aldebaran. Although briefly mentioned by Lovecraft in Eerie Tales, these were actually the creations of Ambrose Bierce, 1842 circa to 1914, an American journalist and early exponent of the weird tale. Bierce was an early influence on H.P. Lovecraft, as were a number of other writers. His favorite author was always Edgar Allan Poe. Hey, 6 years old. What are you going to do?
It makes sense.
And Poe's influence can clearly be seen in some of Lovecraft's first adult fiction. The Outsider in 1921 perhaps most closely emulates Poe's style and subject matter. Arthur Machen was another early influence. His story, The Great God Pan, is very similar in theme to Lovecraft's The Dunwich Horror. Robert W. Chambers also left his mark on Lovecraft. A mysterious play, The King in Yellow, figures in some of Chambers' stories and probably inspired Lovecraft to create the Necronomicon. Is the P silent?
I would pronounce it silent, or I would not pronounce it. I'd be narcotic, but I'm not correcting you on any of this stuff because I know what it's like to read this shit on screen because I did it for a year. So
yes, you did. And the other tomes of Eldritch lore for which his tales are famous. It was Chambers who first borrowed from Bierce the Lake of Hali and Carcosa, perhaps inspiring Lovecraft to attempt transpositions. Lord Dunsany,
hey, it's almost an English word.
I know, was probably Lovecraft's strongest contemporary influence. It was Dunsany's The Gods of Pegana that encouraged Lovecraft to write several dream-based stories and first provided him with the idea of an artificial pantheon of gods. Algernon Blackwood, another contemporary admirer, drew upon Native American legends for the version of the Wendigo later adapted into the mythos by August Derleth, which is there called Ithaqua. Before Lovecraft's death, his circle of correspondence would include such recognizable names as Henry Kuttner, C.L. Moore, J. Vernon Shea, E. Hoffman Price, and Fritz Lieber. That's super German. Some of these letters are collected in 5 Arkham House volumes, while others are published by Necronomicon Press. Brown University in Lovecraft's hometown Providence, Rhode Island, maintains a cataloged Lovecraft collection with thousands more. It was not until late in Lovecraft's career, and then probably only at the urging of some of his younger correspondents, that he began to integrate into his later stories some of the creations found in his earliest tales. In The Shadow over Innsmouth, 1931, we find the Deep One hybrids worshipping Dagon, a creature not mentioned since the story Dagon in 1917. And The Shadow over Innsmouth is an excellent short story. I recommend everyone read it. His second piece of adult fiction. Similarly, the fictional city of Arkham and its Miskatonic University, first used as backdrops in The Picture in the House, 1920, Herbert West's Reanimator, 1921-1922, are finally developed in his later stories, beginning with the Dunwich Horror and continuing through The Thing on the Doorstep. At the Mountains of Madness and The Shadow Out of Time contain detailed histories of pre-human Earth, describing the different alien beings that in the past visited and colonized the planet. Some of these races, such as the fungi from Yugoth and the Cthulhu spawn, were from earlier stories and were carefully integrated into late devised histories. The dreaded Necronomicon, one of Lovecraft's most famous creations, undergoes a gradual evolution. First, mentioned in The Hound, it is here attributed that Abdul al-Hazred, the mad Arab, an Arab poet mentioned in an earlier story, the nameless city, Al-Hazred was, in fact, the boyhood persona of a 5-year-old. Wow, that's dark. Of a 5-year-old H.P. Lovecraft. His youthful imagination inflamed by his grandfather's copy of 1001 Arabian
So I'm going to jump in here for a second. When I was younger, I had a copy of the Necronomicon, but it was not pieced together in any way, shape, or form like it was Lovecraftian. It was actually whatever company published it, put it together, and made it actually seem like it was one of the mystical writings, blah, 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 and incorporated it with chaos theory and some other, not Wiccan, but, magical religion nonsense, right? And so I actually believed it was real. Well, and by real, I mean it was real in the sense of that it fit in with things like the Golden Dawn, Aleister Crowley, Enochian, yada yada yada. Right? It wasn't until later in my life that I realized that, or I learned that was a Lovecraft story, and it was a very embarrassing moment for me because I was very insistent, because the book I had was seriously put together like. This was all part of some
serious work. Yes.
Yeah. Some Marduk Sumerian nonsense that that progressed on. So you can replicate a lot of that because of the writing of the Mad Arab. A lot of that can be replicated into, we'll just say, other stories that can seem more historical.
Yeah. Lovecraft died in near obscurity in March of 1937 at the age of 46, a victim of Bright's disease and virulent cancer. I don't like the word virulent in front of cancer. It tells me cancer is a virus, and it's not. His mother had died in 1921 after 2 years confinement in the same institution where his father had died. Oh my God.
Coincidence?
A brief 2-year marriage accompanied by residence in New York proved disastrous, though divorce was never made final, and in 1926, Lovecraft had returned home to Providence to live out his years as a bachelor, sharing quarters with 2 aunts. These last years saw a reduced output of fiction, but it was during this period he produced some of his most memorable tales. He also found time to travel, visiting places that tickled his antiquarian heart: Maine, Philadelphia, Quebec, St. Augustine, Charlotte, New Orleans, Salem, and Nantucket. Traveling by bus, sleeping in YMCAs, eating crackers, cheese, and canned beans.
That's gotta be healthy.
And he sounds like a hobo by this point. Lovecraft was able to indulge his personal taste for travel, history, and antiquity. Plenty of evidence exists to show that Lovecraft was, by any assessment, an odd individual. No, he was batshit crazy. But some of the greatest artists in the world are also batshit crazy. I mean, Kanye, what are you going to do? Predisposed to hypochondria and a premature pose of old age, for much of his life, he was committed to social and artistic views more suitable to centuries past than the one he lived in. Yes, he is one of the people that required a patron to live the way he wanted to live, to do the things he wanted to do. He would need a patron, and he was centuries beyond being able to get one. So that sucked. Allergic to cold and repulsed by seafood, well, so am I. He was also a scientist and a philosopher possessed of an inquiring mind and sharp wit. Most who came to know him during his lifetime were profoundly changed by his friendship. I can't fight that. Encouraged and enlightened by his
I'm not looking at where you are right there.
I know I can't bring
erudition.
myself to say this right now in my sickness.
It's erudition. He's erudite.
Erudition. Okay. And no nonsense philosophies. Many went on to achieve fame far greater than the mentor ever enjoyed during his lifetime. That's to suck. He has the same effect today, generations after his death. His name is better known than ever, and those who discover him, whether through his stories, through films, games, comics, or trading cards, find themselves as fascinated by his bizarre creations and nightmare worlds as were his contemporaries so many years ago. So, what we're talking about is Lovecraft was not appreciated in his own time, partially because he was cuckoo bananas. By all accounts, bananas. His dad was definitely bananas. His mom went bananas. He was bananas. So he could not hold on to any success, most likely because he would sabotage himself. That I'm just reading between the lines here. He probably sabotaged himself because his integrity was more important than putting food on the table every single time. Okay, but every other peer who read his books, corresponded with him, or spoke to him was inspired to the point where it made their lives better. It made their career shoot into the sky.
One of the things I'd like to say. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And that goes on to this day. So much of his works, or works that were based on his works, are used in the last 30, 40 years alone to create blockbuster movies, best-selling novels, television shows that last for at least 5 seasons, stuff like that. It's all because of him. He could not capitalize on his genius because his genius was the kind that was crippling.
And there's something to be said, like I'm going to get a little philosophical discussion for just a second, but standing by your morals is one thing, and it can be respectable. But if standing by your morals means you can't put food on the table, I don't know how much I can respect that. I know that there's, especially in the current world, there's a lot of people trying. And I'm not even getting political. I'm just saying, with a lot of ideas, thoughts, philosophies out there, at some point you have to survive. Your morals, you can't take your morals with you. And I'm not suggesting be an idiot. I'm not suggesting be a bad person. I'm just saying that at some point it might feel good to be like, look, I'm doing this for everybody. Well, at some point you've got to do something for yourself.
Yeah. See, think of it this way. Compromising your morals to make sure you can write 5 more books you want to write is actually helping your greater goal. Yep. Because if you die in a gutter because you weren't going to compromise your morals, those 5 books that you were going to write that were the pinnacle of your vision never get written, and you're now a loser. So, you got to look at it that way. Okay, after Lovecraft, we don't need to go after Lovecraft.
Right. So we learned about Lovecraft there. You said there's going to be some mythos.
Yes. Now we're going to go to the mythos first.
And for anybody who looked at that little history lesson there, like, oh my God, this is boring. No, it's important to get that history aspect of it to understand. First of all, he was a very prolific writer. Number one, there's a lot of stuff out there you can read to understand this. If you're not, like, I haven't read any. I've played Call of Cthulhu. I've not read a single word of Lovecraft as far as I'm aware.
You should. I mean, okay. Here,
it's on my bucket list.
Okay, now I'm going to have to warn. What the hell just happened? I'm going to have to warn everyone. It is written in, there it is. It is written in language of the day.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's going to be a little more difficult to get the hang of it. It's not as bad as reading Shakespeare, but it's similar. All right. You're going to have a little trouble. That's why I said get it off of the Kindle or Kindle app, because it comes built in. If you hold your finger over a word you understand, it will give you the definition, and it will give you several definitions. If you hold your if you highlight a whole phrase, it will give you a common version variant of it, so you understand what's going on. After a while, you won't need to do that. You'll get used to the style. You get used to the word, the verbiage. You get used to it.
It's the prose of the time.
And then it just flows.
And so we got the history now, but it leads into this. What is the mythos? What is it? I don't want to say you're trying to fight against, because it's more than just that. What is the ambiance of the game that you're playing now?
Let's find out. Lovecraft once wrote, "All my tales are based upon the fundamental premise that common human laws and interests and emotions have no validity or significance in the vast cosmos at large." See, unlike, religion, the world, he realizes that the universe does not revolve around us. We are not special.
Just ants
in the universe. The odds of us being the most special beings in the universe are so infinitesimally small as to be ridiculous to actually say it's true. And with that in mind, he went and created all the things that actually are more important than us, which is the mythos. He further imagined that the fundamental truths of the universe were so alien and horrifying that the mere exposure to them might result in madness or suicide. While humanity might crave both comfort and the truth, only one or the other was possible. The human mind is an inflexible container. It cannot maintain cosmic truth and complete sanity. More of one poured in must spill out more of the other. Let's read that again. More of one poured in must spill out more of the other. That means the more cosmic truth you put into an inflexible container of human mind, the more the human mind will spill out to make room.
Spill out sanity.
Exactly. Yeah. You start losing your brain. Humans desperate for the power cloaked within truth might choose to forego all remnants of sanity in exchange for becoming adept at manipulating the secrets of time and space. Their devil's bargain made, these merciless sorcerers would whistle down devastation and doom to this world in exchange for yet more knowledge and power. That is the idea of most of the enemies in Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. They are cultists. They are sorcerers. They are now insane dabblers in darkness, because the more knowledge of the universe they gained, the more humanity they lost. And there comes a tipping point when you have more knowledge than humanity. That's when it just snowballs out, and now you're the bad guy.
Not intentionally, but you are.
But it happened to you. Yeah. Lovecraft's working out of these ideas in his fiction became known as the Cthulhu Mythos. The term encompasses a complex and broad group of sometimes contradictory narratives, stories, essays, letters, and deductions, so extensive as to be impossible to summarize in detail, which is apropos. And not the least because new mythos material continues to be written around the world. Adding to the confusion, one of his perceptions was that the truly alien is genuinely unknowable. The mythos becomes not just mysterious, but protean and contradictory. Not only do we not know it, of course, thank you. Not only do we not know it,
we can never
know it. As it transpires, we have only our own names for most of these things. We do not even know their real names for themselves, or if they even have names.
Probably a combination of smells, fourth dimensional text,
or sounds or visions or whatever. It could be like, you think Cthulhu's name is actually Cthulhu? No, but for all we know, it could be Brad. I don't know.
Hey, that explains a lot.
There you go. A general summary. Here we go. Through their interrelations though their interrelations are obscure, we know that some entities of the Cthulhu mythos are clearly superior or inferior in their powers. Gods are the mightiest, followed at some distance, apparently, by the great old ones. Depending on which author one reads, the universe is ruled by beings variously known as the elder gods, outer gods, or other gods. Only a few of these deities are known by name. The majority are both blind and idiotic in human terms. They are extremely powerful alien beings, and some may be of extra cosmic origin. The outer gods rule the universe and have little to do with humanity, except for gnarly. Except for gnarly. Humans meddling with these entities suffer for it, usually ending in madness or death. Names for a few outer gods are known. They appear almost as true gods, as opposed to the alien horror of the great old ones, and some may personify a cosmic principle. Only a few of these deities seem to take interest in human affairs or even acknowledge the existence of the human race.
What?
Yeah.
How are we not the center of the universe?
This is why. When they do, they often are shown trying to break through cosmic walls or dimensions to wreak new destruction. All the races and lesser deities of the mythos acknowledge the outer gods, and many worship them. Please stay asleep. Please stay away. Daddy needs a new universe. The outer gods are controlled to some extent by their messenger and soul. Gnarly. I can't do it right now. I'm too drugged up. When the outer gods are discomfited, Gnarly investigates. Azathoth, the daemon sultan and ruler of the cosmos, rides mindlessly to the piping of a demon flute at the center of the universe. Yog-Sothoth, either a second in command or co-ruler, is coterminous with all of time and space. I imagine exist simultaneously in all time and space.
Yeah, that's a word I don't know either.
Yeah, but locked somehow outside of the mundane universe. Yog-Sothoth can be summoned to this side only through the use of mighty spells, whereas Azathoth theoretically might be met by traveling far enough through space. A group of outer gods and bizarre beings dance slowly around Azathoth, but none are named. Okay, here's what we're trying to tell you with this paragraph of shit that I'm sure at first blush you guys are not going to get. That's the point. That's actually the point. You don't get it. These outer gods are primordial beings that either have intelligence beyond the scope of us even beginning to understand, or don't have intelligence at all. The universe exists because they do, or they exist because the universe does. The answer is so intermingled that both are true. And the only reason that the gears of the universe still were and become, and actually do motion is because they are occupied. Gnarly occupies them by dancing demons all around them, playing flutes, stuff like that, keeping them comforted, keeping them still. Because
Schrodinger's universe.
Once they start moving, the universe breaks violently. So anyone who calls upon, any human being who calls upon the power of an outer god will almost instantly go insane. Something like that is not to be trifled with, but humans are stupid and they often do it.
I'll be the one that survives.
Yeah, it'll be me. I'm the one. I'm special. No, you're not. The term elder gods sometimes refers to another race of gods, neutral to and possibly rivals of the outer gods. The elder gods, if they exist, do not seem to be as dangerous to humanity as Azathoth and his ilk, but they have less contact with humanity. Nodens is the best known elder god. Outer and elder gods sometimes have been lumped together and confusingly called the other gods, though primarily gods of the outer planes do not, and not of our earth. They would seem seldom called here. However, when they do appear, they are second to nothing in horror. And just as thoroughly to confuse you, a set of minor outer gods are known collectively as the lesser other gods. See, it gets weird. This is also what happens when you have dozens of authors adding to your story. It gets weird like this.
And you're Bat crap crazy.
Yeah, and being, shithouse rat crazy. Yeah. Species associated with these deities, Shantax, hunting horrors, servitors of the outer gods, and the young and dark young of Shub Niggurath, are correspondingly rare on Earth. The great old ones are not as supernatural as the outer gods, but are nonetheless godlike and terrible to human eyes. Humans are much more likely to worship great old ones who are comparatively near at hand and who occasionally participate in human affairs or contact individual humans than they are to worship the outer gods. Entire clans or cults may secretly worship a great old one. Lone madmen, on the other hand, seem to prefer the outer gods. Beings serving the great old ones frequently inhabit the remote vastness of the earth. Investigators most often encounter their worshippers and alien servants. This is where the cults come in. Cults worship great old ones because great old ones is a slot machine that is more likely to pay out. You give enough sacrifices to the great old one slots, and boom, you're going to get 777 someday. Outer gods or other gods, whatever, you can play their slots your entire life and never come up a winner, because what they think, if they think at all, is nothing to do with you. The great old ones, on the other hand, their personality, intellect, and existence is small enough to where they notice human beings. So if you constantly knock on the door of one day it will answer. Even if it's to say, die for knocking on my door. The great old ones themselves appear to be immensely powerful alien beings with supernatural seeming abilities, but not to be true gods in the sense that the outer gods are reported. Each great old one is independent of the rest, and many seem to be temporarily imprisoned in some way. It is said that when the stars are right, the great old ones can plunge from world to world. When the stars are not right, they cannot live. Cannot live need not mean death, as the famous couplet from the Necronomicon suggests. That is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange eons, even death may die. The idea of this is that life and death for these powerful beings don't mean the same things that it does for us stupid humans. A great old one that is dead, all that means is he's currently not affecting the universe. That's it. He's not gone forever. He's gone for now.
Taking a nappy nap.
Exactly. And when the stars are right, that's human understanding of when it's time for him to wake up and be alive again. Alive meaning now affecting the universe again. So for great old ones, they don't die. They just kind of go away for a while. And when they come back, there's some kind of math to that when they do come out, but they will. And you're not going to like it. Cthulhu, the most famous creation of Lovecraft, is a great old one. With the rest of his race, he sleeps in a vast tomb at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. Cthulhu seems to be the most important great old one on Earth. Others of differing forms exist, and they are recorded as being both less powerful and more free. Thaqua, the Windwalker, roams at will across the Earth's Arctic latitudes. Hastur, the Unspeakable, dwells near Aldebaran, the star, and Cthulhu near Formalt. Okay,
that's another star.
That's another star, obviously so. Other great old ones doubtless infest other worlds, and it may be common for a world to be ruled by dominant great old ones, or more likely their kin. All those known on Earth are invoked or worshipped by humans, but by the evidence of the stories, Cthulhu is worshipped more than the rest put together. Minor great old ones, such as Quacho-Utawus, that was a Hail Mary, usually have no worshippers, but wizards may know spells, thank you, to summon them. Whoa.
I will teach you one thing, not how to help yourself, not how to throw a fireball, but to bring me to you.
There you go. All right. Interventions by great old ones in human affairs are isolated. Some commentators suspect that these greater beings rarely think about human beings or take them into account. Humanity is negligible and unimportant.
Okay, now I'm offended.
They don't care.
Oh.
Certain mythos species are often associated with particular great old ones or outer gods. Baiki with Hastur, for instance, or Night Gaunts with Nodens. Frequently, a god or great old one manifests accompanied by several such beings. Representatives may act as hitmen, messengers, spies, or delivery boys, frightening off investigators and bulking out confrontations. In comparison, outer gods and great old ones should be met infrequently. Okay. This is a really good tip for keepers and a really good tip on if you're a player or an investigator when to walk away from a game. As a keeper, outer gods and great old ones are not in the story until the end, and then only if the group has messed up. All right? Failed. Because when an outer god or a great old one touches the earth will break. Not in a way where it's, oh, I can gorilla glue this back together. No.
So when it happens, it's like the shadow of it, or like how would you incorporate that so it doesn't break the earth?
So if an outer god was summoned to the earth and it flew by, its shadow from space would blanket part of the earth, and every single human and animal that fell within its shadow would mutate into some horrible monstrosity and start a cannibalistic nightmare across the planet. Those are the things that happened when outer gods come to Earth. You don't want that. You don't need that. That's bad for you. That means you, as the players, have failed. And if you, as a keeper, introduce outer gods and great old ones and like session 5, like, oh, you see Cthulhu, you're wrong. You've done wrong things. You should cut your toes off. That's how bad you are. Infrequently means almost never. All right. Other alien species are also important and sometimes have been able to hold their own against great old ones. Such beings vary in power and some are now extinct. They are intimately connected with our planet, as described in At the Mountains of Madness and The Shadow Out of Time. In these stories, Lovecraft gives the true history of the Earth. Some species, such as D-holes.
I think that's doles, but okay.
I know. I wanted to say D-holes because it's funny. Or flying polyps, which sounds gross, and my butthole puckered a little bit. Make no association with particular gods, or else, as with Elder Things and the Great Race, take no special interest in magic. At the dawn of the Cambrian Age, beings known only as the Elder Things flew to the earth. And there are several short stories about human beings being displaced by Elder Things. Displaced, I mean, an Elder Thing's mind is shoved millions and tens of millions years in the future to inhabit a human body to learn about humans, and the human's mind gets put into the Elder Thing's body millions of years in the past. So they switch.
That doesn't sound fun.
It's not, because you're in a body that is not just alien, but seeing yourself in a mirror would be sanity killing. Don't worry, they're not evil. They take steps to make sure the humans don't, break. They inhabited much of the land, warred with other species, and finally were pushed back to Antarctica. The Elder Things, perhaps mistakenly, bred organisms eventually to evolve into the dinosaurs, mammals, and humanity. They also bred the horrible Shoggoths, whose ultimate revolt led to the near extinction of the Elder Things. Eons ago, indigenous cone-shaped beings and had their minds taken over by the great race of Yith, mental beings from the stars. The great race survived in their adopted bodies until about 50 million years ago, when they were defeated by terrible flying polyps not native to this earth.
I don't want to envision that war, okay? I'm sorry. That's
a war that I don't want to be a part of. I understand.
I'm glad it happened 50 million years ago, because today I call quit.
Yeah, I don't need it. I get it. Okay. The Great Race had imprisoned in vast caverns beneath the surface. However, the Great Race had already transmitted their minds forward in time to escape their doom. The Great Race, there was a couple of stories in that too, where they would survive every extinction level event that befell their race by projecting their minds into the future into the bodies of sentient beings that existed when there's no more danger. Think about it. That's pretty smart. It's also extremely evil by our morality, but as a survival trait, it's a smart deal. The star spawn of Cthulhu came down upon the earth and conquered a vast reach of land in the primordial Pacific Ocean, but were trapped when it sank beneath the surface. The beings referred to as the fungi from Yugoth or Migo, I hate those things, established their first bases on Earth in the Jurassic period about 100 million years ago. They gradually reduced their bases to the tops of certain mountains where they maintained mining colonies and such. Dozens of other races also participated in the antediluvian parade. That's a good phrase. I like that. Such as the serpent people who built cities and a civilization in the Permian before the dinosaurs had evolved, and a winged race that succeeded the great race of Yith. Even species from Earth's future are mentioned, such as the beetle-like organisms that will one day succeed man, and the intelligent arachnids that are prophesied to be the last intelligent life on Earth.
I don't want to exist during that time.
You won't. Billions of years in the future. Right before the planet gets destroyed by the sun going red giant. Hey, you know what? It kills all the bugs, right? There you go.
That's okay. I'll be dead before. I do not want to live on Bug World. Screw that.
No, you won't. Don't worry. You won't. At present, humans share the planet with deep ones and ghouls, which seem related to humanity in some fashion, and with a handful of Migo. Other species occasionally visit Earth or are sleeping or are dormant, or the keeper hasn't told you they exist yet.
All right.
And that is all for Chapter 2, Mythos Lore. Now, on our next episode, we are going to go to Sanity.
It's funny that you do Sanity before we even talk about the game system or whatever, but it makes sense because of how important it is. So,
and plus, it's a really good segue from Mythos Lore.
Fair. All right, so questions. Dean Dog, if people would learn that one character is not more important than the group, TTRPGs would not have the problems they do now.
Correct. I mean, it's there has been in Western society for the past 80 years a growing individualism at the not to assist society, but at the detriment to society.
At the narcissistic level.
Yeah, it's of course leaked into role-playing games. Sure. And in the last 30 years, it's gotten much worse because individualism is held to such a greater esteem than actually collectively working for a greater goal as to become ridiculous.
And people don't understand that there's a difference between freedom and individualism.
Yes.
Like there's some of the terms that Heathen Dog used, I know we're going to get comments on collectivism, communism. No, but there's a difference between being free, but also looking out for your neighbors and what's around you, and not summoning Cthulhu here just because it's going to give you some power, knowing that so I break a few eggs, you know.
Yeah, not great, but yes, you are correct, Al. You are correct.
Several Lovecraftian historians show how much the party can survive. The Dunwich Horror and the Mountains of Madness see the main characters living to fight another day. So don't despair. It can actually end well.
Yes. If everyone dies in the first adventure, maybe everyone screwed up or maybe the keeper screwed up. But usually maybe one of the group will die. The rest of them will lose sanity, but they will gain experience, possibly power, maybe a spell or two to garner more or greater success in the next scenario. That's usually what happens. Now, after 5 or more scenarios, now you're on the clock. Now you're on the sanity clock. Winning in, I don't know about 7th edition, we'll find out when we get in game mechanics, but winning in 5th edition, you gain back some sanity. because victories bolster psyches. I understand that. Everyone should. So the more you win, the more you can win. But the more you lose, the more you're going to lose.
It's a death spiral.
Yeah.
Lovecraft is fairly easy to read as far as classics go. The imagery will keep you going. For example, The Temple and the Outsider. Lots of people are just mentioning different books. Basically, the imagery, and I think Howard was like that as well. Like, even though they're short stories, the action sequences actually brought you into the action sequence. Mm-hmm. So I haven't read any Lovecraft, but I've heard this, that that Lovecraft is great if you got a good imagination, because he vibrantly tells you what's going on, and if you can see it, you're going to see it.
Oh yeah, no, for modern readers, the only hurdle is going to be the language and the sentence structure of the late 1800s, early 1900s. But once you get over that, these stories are really good.
ChatGPT says the correct term is coder. Yeah, whatever. The word coterminous refers to two or more things that share the same boundaries or that are coextensive. Basically, how you explained it.
Yeah, I successfully gathered the definition from context. I'm a human. All right.
And here's something that reminds me that you forgot to do something.
Uh-oh.
Snag this Call of Cthulhu Humble Bundle for 25 pounds. Couldn't resist, just need to find time to play it. You were supposed to put the link out. Don't worry, I've got it now.
Oh, good, thank you. No, I also got it this morning. The moment I saw Crafty post it, I looked at it and went, 30 books for 30 bucks? Pff, sold.
Okay, I posted the link to Rumble and YouTube and Twitch.
Excellent. So the link for that Humble Bundle is in the description. It's 30 books for 30 bucks. It's excellent. It's including the main book. So, I mean, for 30 bucks, you can play years of campaigns on this stuff.
And I'm a bad person because I didn't send it to Heathen Dog. You had to get it from Crafty.
It's a PDF bundle.
Because I don't like Humble Bundle.
So, he doesn't like Humble
Bundle. All right. And then finally, we have, guess we got 3 for now. It's Heathen Dog's pronunciation guide coming February 2024. Order now. Act fast, and he'll throw in Drow too.
It's Dro. Okay.
That is a fight.
I know. I did that on purpose.
Yep.
Okay, so moving forward, let's go ahead and get it out of the way. All this stuff is not purposefully hard to pronounce. It just is hard to pronounce. And really, you can only pronounce it correctly if you've heard someone pronounce it correctly. But did they pronounce it correctly? I don't know. Flip a coin, man.
I mean, some of that, like the Egyptian stuff, and there are a couple corrections in chat. Yeah, I could have corrected you on that because I used to study Egyptology and so forth. But it didn't. To me, it doesn't matter. You're explaining the generalities of what's going on. Number one, so having every word perfect doesn't matter at this point. That'd be more important for rules than it would be for lore. And secondly, since I was in that same position for over a year, sitting there reading off, I know that you can pronounce some of the simplest words messed up, and I'm just...
You have some empathy for me, I get it.
Well, it's also, it would disjoint the segment to stop you every time. Like there's no point in that. Just let's move on. Unless it, whoa. You said up and this says down and that makes a big difference. Well, then I might stop you. But other than that, why? So.
And Shadow and Sun said, yeah, I don't pay for PDFs. It's $1 a PDF, man. $1.
Well, and so I've had a conversation with multiple creators. If you follow our channel, you can probably know who at least a couple of them are. And because I complained about the same thing about 5-6 years ago, I could get an entire 700-page book for $5 PDF. I'd have to pay $50 for the hardcover, but nowadays, the going rate for a PDF, whether you like it or not, and whether I like it or not, is 50% of the cover price.
Which is trash.
I agree. I think that's ridiculous. But as more people go digital, I know more people now who would rather have digital PDFs than hardcovers. It's basically old people like us who want the hardcovers, and or soft physical copies. Screw that. I like both. I like the PDFs for what we're doing here, but in my hand, I need this.
Yes.
That Control F search function doesn't matter to me that much. I would rather have that book. But point being, we're on the fading edge of that, and you're going to see PDFs cost 50% of what books cost. So there you go. Anyway, that shouldn't have been part of this segment, but it is now. You already told people what we're going to see in the next one. So, yeah, we'll hope to see everybody in the next video.